Hello, friends. Welcome to tonight's Meet the Builder and Pipe Organ Design Reveal event. Yeah. My name is Scott Henry, and my wife Julie and I co-chair the Pipe Organ Project team. And other members of the team, if you want to raise your hand, there's KJ right there, and I see Dorothy's in the middle, Dorothy Tostengard, and John Helgen, and there's Eric. Eric's Storley back there too. So we make up the team for kind of walking through all of the steps of this project. And I'd also like to welcome our organ consultant, Dr. Greg Peterson. He's been providing us with expert guidance during this entire journey, and he's helped us navigate through all things organ, such as ranks, manuals, drawknobs, Zimbelsterne, bombard, enchaînade, and ciphers. So from the entire project team, a sincere thank you to Greg. It's been fabulous working with you. I'd also like to welcome the man of the evening tonight, Joseph Brown. He is the president of J.F. Nordley Pipe Organ Company from Sioux Falls, and he will be sharing his design concepts for Nordley Opus number 63 shortly. Little did I know 2 years ago this month that when Julie and I had a conversation with Pastor Lauren Reitzman about doing something to fix this organ, and she suggested, why don't you start a task force? That we'd be gathered here tonight to share this next big step together. So you can see on the screens the information that we'll be covering tonight. There we go. So before we get to that, I'd like to ask our interim senior pastor, Eric, to lead us in a prayer.
Well, first of all, I didn't know we had screens like this, so I'm going to be using these in the future, so very impressive. And Dr. Gregory Peterson was working on a PhD in Iowa City, Iowa, and I was in Iowa City, Iowa, Gloria Day. It was my first call, 1987 to 1992. I was an associate at Gloria Day. And Roy Wingate was the senior pastor that I worked with. We had a CAS event there, and I don't. Did you ever play? Did you play that or work with that or whatever? But all right. See, so all these years later, here we are connected, and that's the Holy Spirit at work, and that's the power of Christian community. You're connected whether you want to be or not. So, thank you much for noting that out. That was great. I love finding those little extra relationships from the past that just pop up out of nowhere. So, but we're going to go ahead and continue with a word of prayer because I don't want to get too chatty and we want to get moving on with the veiling. So let's go ahead and continue with the word of prayer. Let's pray. Almighty God, we give you thanks this night, for indeed spring is upon us. The rains come down and they bear new growth among us, and we are really excited about the new thing that you are doing among us as we bring the power of song and music through the instrument that will be unveiled before us tonight. We thank you for all the hard work, and there's always hard work that we never know about. And we thank you for all the hard work that has gone into making this moment possible. We thank you for the depth of the generosity that has made this event tonight possible. This is a church that wants to make an impact, and we are here to see the results of the impact that we are making through this particular effort. We pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
I just have to point out that the new organ, the console design, is going to be about 6 or 7 inches lower, so Greg would just be able to look over the top rather than have to lean way over to the side to see. I'd like to welcome Dr. Greg Peterson to the podium. Greg retired in May of 22 from Luther College in Decorah, Iowa, where he had been named Professor of Music and College Organist Emeritus. He's toured and performed extensively throughout North America and Europe, and has been a consultant to numerous church organ committees. He's currently the Director of Worship and Music at Normandale Lutheran Church in Edina. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Scott. It's really a pleasure to be here, and as Pastor was saying, connections are so important and so fun, and that's one of the things I've so enjoyed about this project here, because for much of my growing up years in elementary school and junior high school, my aunt and uncle lived right across the street at 1210 Roselawn Avenue, and they were members of this congregation. And my cousins and I used to ride bicycles in the parking lot before this building was ever even dreamed about. And in 1983, I played the Moeller organ in the former sanctuary for my cousin Bonnie's wedding. That time the organ was 5 years old, and so it was in far better shape. And of course, as we know from this process, the instrument was built to be in that worship center, which is considerably smaller and of a different shape and acoustic than this room. So there was a little bit more success available when the organ was new and installed in that space. So coming back over here has been a lot of fun for me because I have great memories of just growing up around this church and being in this church. In the spring of 2019, so that was 5 years ago, I came here with the Collegiate Chorale from Luther College on tour. And we had a big high school group here from Roseville area high school, and the place was absolutely packed. And the choirs program had 3 rather large pieces that were accompanied by organ, and there was also a solo piece that I played. And I came in here and I went, oh my gosh. I wasn't sure if we were going to make it through that program or not. The technology of this organ didn't support anything that was needed to do those rather complicated accompaniments. And I think, as you're aware, when this room is completely full of people, even when you blast everything that it's got, there's just no impact of sound. So it was even back then that I remember visiting a little bit with John and John saying, what can we do here? And Martha also was here at the time, and we visited a little bit about that. And there was a first iteration of the organ committee that got started, and then, like many things, the pandemic put that all on hold. So I was just delighted when the organ task force, which has morphed now into the organ project committee, contacted me to see if I was still interested and available in consulting. So it has been a real joy. The work that the task force and now the project team have done, are doing, is really impressive work, and it's momentous. I've been so impressed with the way the committees have engaged the congregation in every step of this process. Truly, this is a congregational project. It's not the project of the music director or a small group of people. And that congregation here includes the children. I've been very intentional about bringing children into this process. I love that organ pipe for the coins out there, and the orgel kit project that's going to happen here pretty soon, and even the open console times when kids have been able to come up and play. So what is going to transpire with the bringing of this wonderful new organ to completion is something that you all can be very proud of. You're all involved with, and will continue to be as you sing with it and listen to it and use it to glorify God. And it will also be something that is really of interest and attractive to people outside of the specific Roseville Lutheran Church community. There have been a number of new instruments that have been installed around the area, and that always generates interest. So I was the consultant for Gloria Day further down on Snelling Avenue, and everything that they dreamed of has come to fruition. So the Before Bach's Birthday Bash that Michael Barone and Minnesota Public Radio hosts every year got its start this year in Gloria Day, and it was broadcast live, first hour of it on NPR. This coming Saturday, the Twin Cities AGO, American Guild of Organists, will be having its student competition at Gloria Day, and the winner of that will present a recital there later in the spring, I think on Pentecost Sunday, May 19th. And they've had a hymn festival, and they've had an inaugural recital, and to great acclaim and lots of people. And the same thing is going to happen here. And I'm really excited. In fact, don't tell Gloria Day. I'm even more excited about this organ than that one. It's going to be a really spectacular musical and art piece, architectural piece that in this part of the city we don't have yet. And so this is going to be really terrific. So I would like to introduce the organ builder so that you can see the unveiling. Joseph Brown has been with the Nordley Organ Company for 22 years. He's now the president of the company, which was founded by John Nordley. Joseph became the president in 2020. But I remember meeting him way back in Decorah, Iowa in 2009 when the Cassavant organ at First Lutheran Church needed some refurbishment, and the Nordley team was selected to do that work. But I became most familiar with Nordley's work through their large instrument that's in the chapel at Augustana College, now University in Sioux Falls. I was on the faculty of Lutheran Summer Music back in the dark ages of 1991, and we were so thrilled to be able to play that organ in concert and in worship and to teach on it. And the Nordley Company has ever since then been growing and expanding and not sitting still in terms of design, innovation. It's a true artisan group. Nothing about this project or this instrument is just sort of done by happenstance or in a factory or on a line. It's all done through very careful planning and design and artisan craft work. Joseph himself worked up through the ranks, pun intended, at Nordley, which is most often how people learn the craft and the art of building an organ. So he says he was first a human clamp, but did metalworking and woodworking and eventually design and soundworking and all of these things you will see now when he reveals this instrument that has been carefully planned and designed. And unique also in that we are incorporating a large instrument, this Holtkamp organ that you see up here in the lower slide from Mountain Brook, Alabama. And that's also organs, we tend to think of them as being sort of big, immovable, permanent pieces, but they're not. You'd be surprised how many organs get moved and refurbished and So when this Holtkamp organ became available, because that congregation is building a much, much larger organ, it seemed like the right thing for Roseville to acquire. And the partnership with St. Luke's has been really lovely. And Joseph was very willing, and his team, to take the pipes from that organ and incorporate them into the new design. So a large part of the organ will be that, and Holtkamp was one of the very famous and first companies in the United States to build really classically inspired pipe organs back in the 1930s and 40s and moving forward. And then Joseph will also explain what he's going to take in terms of pipe work, nothing mechanical, but a few pipes out of the smaller organ that will be refurbished and also included. So it's a real amalgam, and it brings together all of these streams, and it's just very, very exciting. So I couldn't be more pleased that the Organ Task Force chose Nordley to do this work. We looked at many different possibilities here, and this is really, really fine. So without further ado, Joseph Brown from Nordley Organ Company.
I'm going to move over to this mic here because I'm going to walk around a little bit. Thank you, Greg, for that introduction. I appreciate that. Again, my name is Joseph Brown with the J.F. Nordley Company. A little bit about myself. I grew up across the street from our company's founder, John, and was always aware of the shop. And his father worked for him for a while. He used to make us children's toys. And so it's always kind of been there in my life. And when I finished with college, I was looking for something that I could do that was interesting and craft-filled and musical. And my father sent me over to John's place, and I saw the project he was working on, and just been there ever since. But my love for this craft comes really in a number of places. A love for the organization, the intricacy of the mechanism, and in the inspiration that the music can bring out in congregants and musicians and music lovers. But when I decided to take the company over, my brother asked me, "So how do you build a pipe organ?" And I said, "Good question," because it's a complicated question. Essentially, the first steps you take when you're building a pipe organ is to sit down and have a long congregation with the people you're going to build it for. And I couldn't be happier that Greg called us up and asked us about a local instrument in Sioux Falls and started the conversation. Thank you, Greg. But to reiterate his point on how wonderful it's been to work with this committee here, everyone's been very open, and welcoming, and warm, and that makes the process so much easier. And I'd like for all of you to know how lucky you are that you have the committee that you've got. But in designing this instrument, we had those conversations about what the needs of the church were. And the next point after the musical needs was, what are the resources we have to work with? And so my tonal director and I made a couple of visits up here, and we listened. We listened for a long time to the instrument here, and we found out what was good with it, what we could set aside. And then we made a trip down to Mountain Brook, and we spent a morning playing through every pipe there and listening to every rank in that instrument. And then we had long conversations after that with Greg, as he and the committee had been down there as well. And so this is really a intense collaboration over many years, and we're very excited about this new instrument. And so let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. In order for us to start the design, we had to see what kind of conditions were present here in the church. KJ Bach gave me a set of digital plans from when they first built this space, and my team came up for a day after we had signed the contract and we took careful measurements, and we found that the important aspects of the area where we were going to put the organ, namely these two large pillars in this large platform up here, had less than 3/32 of an inch of deviation from the plans to the way your contractor built this space. And so we felt very confident that we could use those plans to create a computer-assisted drafting drawing, a CAD drawing, and proceed from there. So the first thing we did was we drew the floor and this raised platform that you see here. You can go on to the next slide, please. And then we drew in the columns and the balcony and the large soffits that are up at the edge of the ceiling. You can also see here that we've started to put in some of these interior walls. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Here we've drawn in some more of this organ platform. And you'll have to forgive me, but there's a lot of components to this organ, and it's going to get busy up there. So the reason why I have these items shown in here is your organ planning committee, or the building planning committee really, for when this building was built, was looking to the future and saying, we want to be able to put whatever the future generation wants to put up there. There's 18-inch by half-inch steel I-beams holding up a concrete floor up in that space up there. And so if we wanted to, we could park a crane up there. So we really felt confident after delving into these drawings that we could go all out and really use all of the best components from the two existing organs, and we outfit it with a few more additional pipe resources. Would you please go to the next slide? So here we're kind of rotating the view around. We'd be looking at this from like that northern aisle over there. You can go ahead to the next one. All right. Now, when we started laying out the actual pipe work in the space, we realized that we had kind of a challenge, because there are some very tall sets of pipes in this instrument. And if you remember from the picture earlier with the organ from Mountain Brook, there's a very tall set of what we call a Principal 16. And the largest of those pipes is over 22 feet long. And so there's only so many spaces here where we could fit the entire set. And so in order to figure it out, I drew all of the pipes and put them into these different configurations. We could have done them 4 deep, could have done them 3 deep. I started to get kind of excited around doing them 1 deep. An interesting thing about this set of pipes is that the toes are all different lengths. So you've got a cylinder and a truncated cone down on the bottom, and that truncated cone is the toe. And it's almost 4 feet long on the tallest pipe, and they gradually get smaller on a logarithmic scale. By placing them in one row, they give a visual feeling. It draws your eye in towards the instrument. And so we played around with putting them in one row. The other ways of putting that is as what we call a Christmas tree or a W diatonic layout. Would you please go to the next slide? So, and you can go on to the next one. We decided to put them in one row with the mouths of the pipe on a parallel line. This brings your eye into the center, and it also allows space at the top of the pipes for items that are going to go in later. One of the concerns of the planning committee was to be able to see a lot of these items in the organ that are making sound. And so we took that seriously. You can go on to the next slide. There's another 16-foot length set in the organ. This one plays on the manuals or on the keyboard. The first set is played in the pedal. And so to emulate some of the Walter Holtkamp design, we set those in a similar yet not mirrored layout. The set that we're looking at here on the right, those are brand new. The toes here are a little bit shorter than they are here, and it just creates a variety for your eye to behold as you view the instrument. You can go on to the next slide. After adding those two largest sets in, we had to consider the largest division of the organ. And when we discuss divisions, essentially we're talking about different areas where the sounds are going to be coming from. If you look up here, organ's got 3 divisions up there. You've got the grate in the middle, which is exposed. You've got a swell and a choir, and those are what we call under expression. You see the louvers on the front? Those can be operated by the organist to allow the sound to swell out or to diminish in order to create a gentler effect. The largest set of pipes in the new organ is the choir. And in order to fit it all in there, we had to create a box that pushes back into that corner. And so here you see that our choir box has got those same louvers on it, here in the center. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Here we're just rotating the view to show you what it would look like from the side. And what you're seeing here on the side is some paneling work. We went ahead and made a sample. I'll show that off a little bit later. Go to the next slide, please. Another little rotated view, kind of looking at it from the top. What you're going to start to see here is that the pipes across the front are not arranged in a straight line. They're arranged on a curve. We didn't want to take any more space than we absolutely had to from your riser area over here. And so they go, the pipes, forgive me, the pipes start at their highest on the outside of the pillars, and then they curve towards the inside. Go ahead and go on to the next slide, please. Now what you're seeing are 2 more chambers here on either side of the choir. In this box here on the left, we've located the swell division, which is another division that's under expression. We chose to put them on this side because this is the east wall of the building. If we had put them on the other side, it'd be on the south side. And since there are windows up above, those pipes could be affected by summer heat. And we try to build everything so that it remains stable. And so that's why we chose to set the swell off onto this side. This other box over here is where we intend to put winding components, the blower and the different reservoirs that support the wind of the instrument. Next. So this is just another view from the front. You can go on to the next slide, please. And that's just another view from the top. After locating the choir, and the swell box, and the winding mechanisms, along with those longest sets of pipes, we're able to start putting some other things in there. Next. The 16-foot Posauna is here. That is a reed set, very large, and we decided to keep the layout that it has currently because it fits. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Now what you're looking at here is the pedal slider chest. That's the rest of the pedal pipes that are exposed. Next. The next item we placed is the sub-bass, and you're going to see them as just a little rise here. These are large wood pipes. Next. Here you can see the other half of the compass over here. Next. Here we've added the grate slider chest in. Those are located on what's called a electropneumatic slider chest. It's the most compact chest design that we know of for placing those pipes together in a tight space. And so, go ahead to the next image. There, we're zooming in a little bit on that because it's difficult to see. Go ahead and go on to the next. There, if can you toggle back and forth? You'll see a set of pipes right here in the back. Go ahead and add them again. Those are an option that we've included in the contract if the church would like to have one more voice. That's an 8-foot trompeta, which we feel would be a good addition, but we negotiated a different price. That's still an option. Just have this in here to show you that there is space for it. Next. Now what you're seeing is the festival trumpet. That's another 8-foot trumpet set. It's horizontal, and so as we kind of pan around in this image, you'll be able to see it a little bit more. Go ahead to the next picture. So this is all of the pipe work that you're going to see exposed in the organ. Everything else is going to be located in these two expression boxes. And so the next question we have is, how are we going to hold those all up there? Right now, they're just floating in space, right? So we wanted this to be a real statement piece, and we wanted to tie it in with the existing architecture of the building. Go ahead and go on to the next slide. We got another rotate. Next. Zoomed way out. Next. Next. Okay. So here you're seeing some of our casework. And much of this is actually functioning pipe organ parts. So this here is what we would call in the business the impost, the facade impost. There will be wind chests just behind that unit. That's a curved impost in 2 dimensions. It's going to be a striking piece. The bands that you see coming across the side are going to be using these columns here as support. And at their corners, where they meet, they're going to feature this same finger-jointed technology to tie them together. Go on to the next slide, please. There's your console. As you can see, it's a lot different than the one that you've got. We call this a French terrace design. By placing the stop jams, where the organist selects different pipes, out on those curves, they're all within reach of the organist, and they're all at the same height as the keyboard they're being played on. And so it's what we'd call an ergonomic desk, but we felt it was a great design for this space, especially with all the curves and angles that we have going on in the room. Next, please. So here you're going to see we've got a total of 57 ranks and 3,217 pipes. It's a significant addition to what you currently have, and our goal here is to make the instrument more eclectic. So you'll be able to play classic French, German, American literature, and you'll be able to play it loud. You'll also be able to play it soft. Let's go ahead and go on to the next slide. What else do we have here? So now we've got just different views. So this is what the organ will look like from that upper balcony corner. If you go on to the next slide, please. That's what it looks like from the north aisle. Go on to the next one. That's what it will look like from the south aisle here, about where John's at. Next. That's what it looks like from your main central entrance. Next. That's what it'll look like from the altar. That's for you, Eric. Next. And that'll be John's view, or your organist's view. And let's give it one more. Is there one more view? And that's the view from the top. And that shows a lot of the curves that we've been discussing, and all the different areas. One of the things I wanted to let you all know about is how much fun it was to design this. Very few times are we given the kind of freedom to really flex our design muscles. And we have gotten the warmest reception from the committee and the greatest support, and it's truly our pleasure to build this unique, one-of-a-kind instrument for you. And with that, I believe my presentation here is complete.
Well, I know you've all digested all the terminology that Joseph has explained to you. So, how many people know what a draw knob and a stop jam are, right? Okay, so the draw knob is a button or a lever that you push or pull depending on the design of the organ to select the sounds that you're going to have. And so, typically they would be labeled with names like trumpet, flute, diapason. We mentioned the bombard. When I can't pass up the opportunity to lift up the Schwebung, which is a German name for a stop on the organ. If we had extra space for more draw knobs, we have a slide of what that might look like. And so, would you show that, please? Can you read those? It has things like Sports Channel, something about turning the pastor's microphone down, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe shorten the sermon. So anyway, there's a little humor for the evening. We'll see what we do with those, and maybe we'll take some suggestions for other draw knobs that we could use. I just want to say a little bit about the new organ as part of concerts and recitals that will happen here. It's very exciting to have a new and diverse and capable instrument for use in future programs and concerts here. I began as the music director here in 2003, and over the years we've really expanded the list of performing groups, both local and regional, that have come here for concerts. And just to name a few of them, the Minnesota Orchestra, the Metropolitan Symphony Orchestra, Vocal Essence, Minnesota Chorale, Greater Twin Cities Youth Symphonies, the World Choral Symposium, National Lutheran Choir, the Bach Roots Festival, Minnesota Oratorio Society, the Grand Symphonic Winds, the Lake Wobegon Brass Band, St. Paul Civic Symphony, the Minnesota Symphonia, the Twin Cities Women's Choir, the Two Rivers Chorale, and of course, I want to mention that we have had about 20 concerts here for Christmas with our own musicians, choral and instrumental, handbells, organ, brass, the whole works. We've also featured many college groups, primarily from our Lutheran colleges. We've had the Concordia Choir here, Wartburg Choir, Luther College Nordic Choir was just here recently, the Luther College Cathedral Choir, which was the concert that Greg Peterson was mentioning, the Luther College Jazz Band, the Concordia Band, and so the list goes on and on. These groups have really enjoyed this great flexible and spacious performing space, and also, as have the concert attenders, who particularly appreciate the free parking. You can't go down to Orchestra Hall and just go into a parking lot like this. So many of these groups have used the RLC organ over the years. The new organ is going to be a terrific enhancement to our performance possibilities here, along with our Steinway grand piano. This is almost 10 years old, if you can believe that. And just as this is kind of what I call an artist piano, we had a good piano before, but when you had an orchestra come in and they say, we want to play the Beethoven Piano Concerto, the pianist says, well, what's the piano? And when they hear it's a Steinway B, they say, well, that might be something that I'd be interested in. And so it does affect and the same will happen with the organ. It'll be an attractive thing. And so, in addition to using the organ in concerts and with ensembles, such as choirs or orchestras,
We also hope to present organ-only recitals and concerts in the future. And I think there's going to be a lot of organists from around town and from lots of places that are going to want to come and play on this instrument. It's going to be very exciting. So I hope that we'll see you all at many future musical events here and for many years to come. Thanks.
My name is Julie Henry, and I co-chair the organ project team with my husband, Scott. I just have 3 slides left to give you an update from the organ project team. We are actually getting close to the point where we're going to start moving pipes around, and that's pretty exciting. We have several volunteers that we are calling the Pipe Organ Transplant Team. We probably won't be using the acronym very often, that's POT. So you'll hear it by the other name. But just 6 weeks from now, this group will help the Nordley team move or remove 85 pipes from our organ. So May 21st, 85 pipes are coming out of this organ. The rest of the organ will stay here until January of 2025. And then in June, this same group is headed to Mountain Brook, Alabama, where we're going to assist the Nordley crew again to remove the Holtkamp organ there at St. Luke's. This is considered a mission trip, and each of the team members that is going is not only donating 10 or 11 days of their time and energy, but they're also paying their own way for this trip. The team assisting with the organ removal will be KJ Bach, John Helgen, Scott and me from the organ project team, along with Rich and Julie Wendland, and Dave and Linda Werner, and Jan Abel and Eric Woolhow, I think, are still in Arizona, but they'll be back. Then once the Holtkamp is packed up down in Mountain Brook, it'll be trucked to Nordley's shop in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And that's where we'll have 5 more organ transplant volunteers meet that truck and help the Nordley crew unload the truck. These volunteers are Jeff Bauer and 3 generations of the Rosti family, Jim and Lorene, and their son Scott, and their granddaughter Rain. So we're looking forward to that work. Stay tuned for more volunteer opportunities. In January of 2025, when they remove this whole organ, we'll need help then as well. And then next March, which is less than a year away, when the truck pulls up right out here with our new organ, we're going to need a lot of help to bring that in here to this space. So stay tuned. As far as the funding goes, I get asked about this a lot on Sunday mornings. The organ project team has worked really hard to make sure that RLC is getting the best solution for our organ dilemma at the best value. The Holtkamp in Alabama is being gifted to us. We're reusing the best parts of 2 organs. And when this beautiful instrument is completed, the estimated value will be $1.8 million. You've heard it lots of times from us before, but I just want to make everybody aware that this is not something that's funded by Roseville Lutheran's general ministry budget. No budget funding. It's funded solely by individuals who have stepped up and made above and beyond donations because they understand the importance of this organ to our music ministry and the very future of RLC. The response to the project has been overwhelming and inspiring. To date, we've raised $795,000 that's been committed so far, some in cash and some in donation, or some pledged. But that's 94% of our project goal of $850,000. That amount represents donations from 146 households here at RLC and friends of RLC, and includes $278, mostly in coins, from the Pennies for Pipe coin collection out in the lobby. So thank you if you've already given a donation or pledged a donation. It means we have over $367,000 in cash in the bank, and that means that cash flow for the project is good through 2024. So if you've been waiting to see if this project is really going to happen, tonight is evidence that we are well on our way to making this a reality. We are so close to our goal that we could make this happen tonight if you wanted to. We just need a little more help to raise the remaining $54,000. The table on this slide just shows one example of how we might do that with just 56 more donors. Some larger gifts, some middle-sized gifts, and some smaller gifts would all add up to what we need. Or it could be as simple as 54 people coming forward and saying, I can give $1,000. You might not see us pushing the fundraising quite so intently as we ramp up to our praise campaign now, the end of the month. We've got Feed My Starving Children coming up. You know, they're also asking for funds, but we have plenty of time to pay for this before the organ is installed in June of 2025. So later this summer, we'll make another push and you'll hear more from us. But for tonight, there are intent to give forms out in the lobby by the organ poster. There's a QR code on the poster if you want to do a one-time gift there. You can complete a form online on the organ webpage. And if you would like to make a charitable donation from your IRA, or you have appreciated assets that you would like to donate to the project, call the RLC Finance Office. They'd be happy to answer any of your questions and help you with that. Lastly, I want to talk about some of the upcoming organ-related events that are on the calendar. The first one is Monday night, April 29th at 6:30. We're going to host another community hymn sing. Last time when we did this, I believe it was last August, we had 115 attendees. And this time the hymn sing falls during our praise campaign. So it's another great opportunity to invite the community for an evening of piano, organ, brass, singing, and of course, ice cream and social time. And then on May 24th, that's a Saturday, or on May 4th, Saturday morning, 9:30, we're going to host a Build a Pipe Organ event because Nordley has graciously agreed to loan us an Orgel Kids organ kit, and it's right here in this box. So Joseph said it's kind of tricky to get it back in the box, but we'll work as a group to assemble the organ. This is a traveling educational kit that originated in the Netherlands as a fun, approachable way for people to learn about the organ and all ages. So we'll feature the kit on this event on May 4th. It'll be for kids, it'll be for families, it'll be for any of you, anybody who wants to come. And we'll talk about how pipe organs work, what they're made of and how they're made. And then we'll assemble this kit. It's 133 pieces. And when you're finished, it's a 2-rank, 2-octave working pipe organ that is powered by hand bellows. So we'll give people a chance to do the bellows and a chance to play the organ as well. And the last thing is a play the pipe organ. This was a fun event when we hosted it in November. People had a chance to sign up for a 15-minute time slot and come and just play their own music. They could play the different keyboards and use the different stops to hear what the different pipes sounded like. So we plan to offer that again this year. It's not, we don't have a date yet, but we'll keep you posted as soon as we've got that scheduled. And before we wrap up and have a little Q&A here, we just want to give a big shout out to the people who are helping tonight to make this a successful event. We've got Jeff Bauer helping with the sound in the back. Our daughter Jessie is running the slides for us. We've got Jeff Johnson back in the video room. He's recording it, so anybody who can't attend tonight will be able to view it online later. And then all the people who brought treats for the reception, thank you very much. Your help is greatly appreciated. So with that, I think we'll open it up if you've got some questions floating around in your head after you saw that presentation. We've got a couple of mics that we can get to you so that everybody can hear what the question is. And we've got our experts here. You probably are tired of hearing from us, but Joseph and Greg are here and John too.
Okay. My name's Joanne. I've grown up at this church all the way back in the 40s building. Anyway, my question is, with pipes in front of the beam there, what's the lowest height that they'll be sitting at in front of that beam?
The lowest the pipes are going to be over here is at about 40 inches off the floor for the bottom of the toe. And so if I just went up and stood next to it, the bottom of that largest pipe is going to be at about my rib, and the mouth of the pipe where it's actually making music will be up here, closer to about 9 feet.
So how much will the back row feel the rumble?
They're going to feel the rumble.
Speaking for the bass section, we will now be issuing earplugs.
Oh, I'm Bill Cheetah. You mentioned it was a movable console. Could
Yes.
you talk a little bit about how movable and
Sure.
can it actually be removed from the space?
Yes. So, unlike this console here, if you can look at the base of the console here, you've got this big umbilical cord that runs, back into the floor and up to the rest of the organ. The instrument we're building has got a single fiber optic cable, and so we're going to create a cord for you that you can move anywhere in this front area, really. A fiber optic cable can submit a signal much further than a regular wire cable or copper line cable. The other thing that, can you run the slides back to one that's got the console in it? So many times when you see an organ that's on a dolly, they'll have that unit there, and it'll be on a platform. And we've come up with a way to put casters directly in the bottom of this case and on the end of the pedal board here. And so it's going to be compact as a console can be. So you should be able to tuck it up closer to the stairs if you need to. But yes, it is very mobile.
Yeah, Jack Miller, just a question about maintenance.
Maintenance. Well, an instrument like this will need some break-in maintenance, and that's included in the contract. So the first 2 major seasonal changes of the year, we're going to be coming back up, and training it is the term that we like to use. So it'll get tuned twice a year, and after that, it should be tuned at most once a year. But I believe that the committee is budgeting for 2 tunings a year.
Other questions?
Yeah, certainly.
The question about maintenance is really important. And what's important to understand, of course, is that a pipe organ, and it's why we have advocated so strongly for a pipe organ, is really a living, breathing entity in many respects. We use a little bit of electricity now to generate wind, but when the orgel kit's being demonstrated, as Julie mentioned, you'll be able to see how historically wind was raised by using a bellows. But we have to breathe and release in order to speak or to sing. The organ has to do the same thing. It's got to raise up wind and it's got to raise it out. And then you have pipes that are made out of wood. You have pipes that are made out of metal. And the whole thing is actually a giant physics experiment. And so changes in humidity and changes in temperature are what affect the tuning of an organ, which is why it's recommended in the fall, sometime before Christmas, when the heat comes on for the winter, that's the proper time to tune. And then at the end of the winter season, somewhere around Easter or a little after, when the heat goes off. But you want to maintain a pretty consistent temperature. So if the Nordli firm comes up and the room is at 70 degrees and they tune the organ at 70 degrees, it will be in tune whenever this room is at 70 degrees. If it dips down to 64, the organ's going to be flat. If it goes up to 76, it's going to be sharp. So it really is. you think of it as an organism, an organ that's an organism, right? And it really is all of that. So.
That kind of speaks to one of the things that I really enjoy about this craft. We're tasked with creating essentially wind-tight wooden boxes that contain a lot of mechanisms that allow wind to travel through into these pipes. And so in order to do that, we have to take into account how much the weather and temperature are going to change. And with communication, we can make sure that the organ is performing at its best for your services. And so, Greg?
Just a quick anecdote. If you remember the Crystal Cathedral in Garden Grove, California, which is now a big Catholic cathedral, I believe. But the organ that's in that building is actually 4 different instruments. This is going to have 2 and plus new, but spread all the way around. And of course, what is that building made out of but glass? And as Joseph mentioned earlier, designing here to keep certain pipes away from windows that can heat up and also be cold. That Crystal Cathedral organ has never been in tune with itself, ever. And it changes during the daytime depending on, the movement of the sun, right? And so the planning for that didn't exactly, the vision was better than the reality.
Thank you.
The question I have is that the church has 2 murals that are huge back here. How will it fit in?
Well, we've actually made a bit of a preparation for that. So currently, when the panels come in, they're attached at the top of one of these cases, and that is not going to work with this here. But what we have done is we've created these large beams that come off the sides and go back to the walls. And while we're setting the organ up, we're going to make some plans to create anchoring spots so that you can continue to put those panels up.
I'm Mike Dolan, and I'm involved with the mural, so just a quick comment. It's all right, Al. Typically what we've done, just for people's information, you've seen it, we've got the 2 columns there, and the what I would call number 8 runs from that column out into the front. So as the current setup is, it would actually be in front of those pipes. Now, I'm not suggesting that, mind you. This is a far more important thing, in my opinion, than mural. We'll have to adjust, is the answer to your question. And we can do that, and we've got time to do that. What I'm seeing from the design, it's basically from column to column, is we're looking at the pipes. Is that kind of what you're...
That's correct.
Yeah.
None of the pipework extends beyond this side plane.
Right.
We've got about 2 inches of width on those beams that go back, if you look at here and here. And we didn't want to, we really couldn't go out past that space because you've got these opening panels here on this right side, and you've got your screen coming down on the other. And so really this face going over to this face was the only place we could put those pipes.
Right, and the thing to remember, of course, is we've got 2 different murals. One of them I would call more kind of an individual. Each panel is somewhat individual. The other one is more continuous all the way across. That's the one that we may have what I would call the number 8 there. But frankly, we'll deal with that. We'll figure out a way to do this. This is more important than frankly with dealing with the mural. So it's a good question, and it's something we've got to consider, but we'll figure it out.
And this also speaks to the spirit of collaboration that we kind of discussed at the beginning of our presentation. We've been speaking since we came to do our initial measurements, and we're going to come in when you have the lift here to take your Christmas paneling down. We'll be will be scheduled to come in and remove a lot of these pipes at the beginning of the year in 2025. And while we're in here moving those around, we're going to make our final plans for how we can incorporate the hanging of those panels into some of the organ casework. Thank you.
I can just talk loud. How many pipes is the new arch?
It's 3,217. 1,400. So we're more than doubling the size, the tonal resources of the organ. I didn't have that number. 1,400 that are working.
Joseph, I think it would be interesting for you to share part of the discussion that we had of this instrument also being a work of art. That when people come into the sanctuary, it's going to have that wow factor. And part of it is design, but also talk about all of the different colors and textures.
Oh, sure. Well, pipes are made out of a lot of different materials. So the pipes from Mountain Brook, the large ones that are going to be on this left-hand side, they're made out of zinc, and they've been painted a kind of a silver metallic blue when you get close up to them. So it's going to be very striking to see that. The other set of pipes that are on the right-hand side, those are polished aluminum, and so those will absolutely shine. The 16-foot Posauna, the reed set here, that's made of hammered copper, and so those are going to be polished and they'll absolutely shine. The festival trumpet, this horizontal set here, that's also made out of copper. And so there's a lot of different families kind of coming together and being used in this space. As far as an art piece, there will not be another organ like this anywhere in the world. It'll essentially look like it's floating over this space here. We've designed the structure of this instrument to hang off of those 18-inch I-beams. And so there won't be any posts that come down to the floor in the middle. It's going to look both organic and architectural. It's really going to be something fantastic. We're excited. I can't tell you how excited the guys in our shop are to be working on this.
What you're saying is it's going to look heavenly.
It's going to inspire. People are going to come in and they're going to see it there, and they're going to want to spend more time here. They're going to want to listen to it. I really feel that with the acoustic you have here and the music program, there will be artists who will want to come and record on this and create albums. It's going to be a destination instrument. Absolutely.
So I think Joseph delivered on our one request was we didn't want this to look like our grandma's organ. We wanted something, inspiring, different. And I think he did a terrific job. So any other questions? Well, with that, I think we can thank Joseph for sharing all the information tonight. So thank you to Joseph, thank you to Greg, thank you to John. We've got lots of treats. Oh, Jim has a question.
I do. I'm Jim Stuck. I just wanted to express my gratitude and ours for all the work this group has done, the task force, and over the years. So thank you very much.
So I was just getting to the important part. There's lots of good treats out here, folks. And we do have gluten-free options, so please come and introduce yourselves to Greg and Joseph and have some good conversation.